Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cricketing Hour. Here we are to talk about England's triumph over Sri Lanka in both the tests, the one in Manchester at Old Trafford and the one at Lord's just now. But the strange thing is, in both these matches, although Sri Lanka lost by heavy margins, they still had their chances, and it's a relatively good recovery for them. They've not been having a phenomenal test game the last 3-4 years. They lost the warm up game against the first class side pretty badly as well, I might add. So it's been a better showing from them, but they really missed out on a few opportunities. Let's start by talking about the second test, what just happened here. And the interesting thing for me is England won by 190 runs. In the first innings, they were 216 for 6, courtesy some fantastic bowling from Asitha Fernando in particular. And from 216 for 6, they went to 427. Had Sri Lanka gotten them out there, had they whipped out the tail for 230, 240, I think they would have been in prime position to win this game. So that is something they will rue, not being able to clean up the tail. But I think that's not just Sri Lanka's fault. You also need to give credit to England there, because Joe Root and Gus Atkinson, fantastic. Root has now become England's most prolific century maker in the entire history of their cricket. He's passed Alistair Cook now. He's got 34 test centuries. We always used to talk about the Fab Four, Kohli, Smith, and we always use Williamson and Root as well, of course. And we always used to talk about Smith and Kohli in test cricket. Well, Root has come and has passed them all. Since 2020, Joe Root has scored 17 centuries in the red ball format, which is, I think, the equivalent of the rest of the big three combined in the same time period. It's unreal, this run of form he's on. I personally believe Bazball has completely reinvented the Joe Root we know, which is a bit interesting because he's not a very aggressive player. But despite that, he's been able to gel with this Bazball spirit of cricket, and he's been able to up his game. Twin centuries. And how rare is it for a batsman to score twin centuries and still not get the Man of the Match award? Because Gus Atkinson arguably did something even more special. Atkinson has now gotten, in his debut season, onto all three Lord's Honours boards. Amazing legends of our game like Sachin Tendulkar in their entire career have never gotten onto the Lord's Honours board. This lad has done it not only on the batting honours board by scoring a century, but also on the 5-wicket haul honours board and also on the 10-wicket haul honours board. So it's a great job, and I think Atkinson is definitely in for a bright future if he continues to perform like this. Fantastic stuff, even with the bat, 118 batting with the tail. The thing that really stood out for me was when Root got out, the score was 308. And I think if England were bowled out for what, 320, 330, I definitely think Sri Lanka would have had a much better chance. But Atkinson from 308 batted with the rest of the tailenders and took it to a whopping 427, batting Sri Lanka out on a relatively tricky Lord's wicket. As for Sri Lanka's batting, really nobody showed up, I think, apart from Kamindu Mendes. Chris Wokes and Matthew Potts for me were the pick of the bowlers from England's side. Both took 2 wickets apiece. Atkinson, of course, he got a couple of wickets too. The interesting thing is England did not enforce the follow on, which is a bit interesting. I know in modern cricket, teams tend to avoid the follow on, and the key reason for that is mainly it's to rest the bowlers, to prevent injuries, to make sure your bowlers don't get burnt out. And I really think that's the main reason. From a strategic point of view, I do think enforcing the follow-on would have been better. But England took the risk. They decided it's better to have a well-rested bowling attack. It's better to go out there with the batting, put some more pressure on. And they set them an impossible-to-chase target. And really, Sri Lanka just faded away after another Joe Root century. We can talk briefly about the first test as well. And about the first test, I'll just say this. That Sri Lanka obviously... had their opportunities. They set them a target of 205, which was relatively achievable, but chasing in test cricket can never be taken for granted. Even if it's 200, even if it's 180, even if it's 160, you can never take chasing in test cricket for granted, because by the time the 4th innings comes, the wicket is usually more difficult than ever to bat on. It's also interesting that Sri Lanka won I think the tosses in both the games, so that's an advantage they had, but they could not capitalize on it. Asitha Fernando in the first innings at Manchester took 4 wickets. He took 2 wickets for just 25, I think. In the second innings at Manchester at Old Trafford, he got a fifer, of course, at Lords, which is a big success for him. Although the Lords fifer was not, in my opinion, one of his best bowling efforts. Sure, he got 5 wickets, but he got them at the expense of what, 100 odd runs, and he couldn't get Atkinson out, couldn't get Root out before they got to their hundreds. But still, he's been the pick of the bowlers, arguably in the entire series, but definitely from Sri Lanka's side, he's been fantastic. Kamindu Mendes, of course, he's been another bright spot as well. He's been performing well. He got a ton, of course, at Old Trafford, got a fantastic 70 odd at the second game at Lords, so he's been batting well. I think from England side, Jamie Smith is a big positive. Jamie Smith, of course, got 100 at a very brisk rate alongside Hyde-Brooks' half century when batting at Old Trafford, and he was the man of the match there as well. So I think England have a lot of bright things to look at. It's very interesting for a team to be able to dominate the other side. I won't say dominate because Sri Lanka had other opportunities, but to win 2 matches in rather convincing fashion despite the loss of their captain and perhaps their main talisman and the greatest pressure soaker in modern cricket, Ben Stokes. So it, I think, in my opinion, gives a sort of, it's a testament to the team spirit of this England cricket team we see today, that despite the loss of their captain, they were still able to perform it this way. Ollie Pope's captaincy, I really think 2 test matches is too small of a sample size to judge. His reviews, perhaps, have not been the best, as he himself admitted in the Lord's post-match interview. But he's still got a long way to go, and let's see how the third test pans out. Chandimal Matthews, of course, they've been batting decently on and off. From Sri Lanka's side, I think their batting is their main concern. Bowling, they've been generally been able to get wickets up front, but they have struggled to get rid of the tail. And this is the thing with this England side. They just keep coming at you. You can't relax even if they're 6 down, 7 down. They were 308 for 7. They went on to add 119 more runs after that at Lords. And they bat so briskly, they bat so quickly. Jamie Smith, Harry Brook and the others, with this baseball style of cricket, they can take the game away from you within a matter of 5 to 10 overs. So let's see how Sri Lanka respond. I would really like to see them get a consolation win at the Oval, because I do think a 3-0 scoreline does not reflect the quality of cricket they've played. The crunch moments, they haven't been able to deliver. That's a blunt statement. They have not been able to deliver in those crunch moments, but generally they have managed to play some solid cricket. So let's see what happens at the Oval. I'm excited. I hope you are too. Take care and share your thoughts in the comments below.